Hey, how you doing today? I am Tequila Coleman. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you today about different ways how the enemy blocks communication between you and your God-ordained spouse. Now, the ways that I'm going to share with you in this video, I also want you to know that, you want to make sure you are praying against, the enemy and his tactic. Okay, so as I share these different ways on how the enemy has come in and is blocking communication between you and your God-ordained spouse, pray against these tactics of the enemy. You want to rebuke it, bind it, so that God can come in, take your prayers, and begin to move on your behalf and open up communication between you and your God-ordained spouse. Okay, so the first way how the enemy blocks communication is with the whispers, the lies in your God-ordained spouse's ear, right? So soon as the enemy learn of who you are, to your spouse, the enemy immediately begins to attack this God-ordained love story. And so what your God-ordained spouse may not have realized is that the people they call family and friends are really sent on assignment to block them from coming into agreement with this God-ordained love story. And so maybe your God-ordained spouse may have confided in, certain family members or even friends, who you are. And maybe they even told them like they interested in you and they want to marry you. And now, from their friends or family, now, the enemy is whispering lies in their ear about you. They might be bringing up your past to your God-ordained spouse and telling them reasons why they shouldn't marry you. They might even be also sharing with your God-ordained spouse, another person who they might, think is better, right, to marry, better for them versus you, right? So the whispers of the enemy, being in your God-ordained spouse, that is one of the ways how the enemy comes in and blocks communication. Because if your God-ordained spouse, again, these are family and friends, but if they value, what these individuals are saying to them, right, and they highly esteem them, then they are going to, what these individuals are saying to them in their ear, they are going to really, believe that it might be true versus what God is telling them. And they might just go ahead, and come into agreement with the enemy, right? But don't worry about it, because as you pray, against the enemy, God is going to come in and bring exposure to the enemy's camp. He's going to expose every hidden frenemy, and family members that are surrounded by your God-ordained spouse and who are blocking this love story from coming together, okay? The second way how the enemy blocks communication is with demonic obligation and interference. So this can be seen when your God-ordained spouse is with the counterfeit. The counterfeit already know their time is up. And because they know their time is up, and when the counterfeit see you and your God-ordained spouse together, they already can see, just by your interaction, just by the look on your God-ordained spouse's face, that, they really are into you, and you can touch them in ways that the counterfeit can't touch them. And so they are, like I said, they already know their time is up. And so they would try to keep your God-ordained spouse, wrapped up in these demonic obligation, and they will continue to interfere in this God-ordained love story. So you want to make sure that you are praying against all demonic obligation and praying against all, demonic interference, okay? The third way how the enemy blocks communication is when God comes in and correct your God-ordained spouse. Maybe your God-ordained spouse mistreated you in the past, and God stepped in, brought correction. God allowed your God-ordained spouse to see the error in their ways and how they responded to you in wrong ways, right? And so the enemy would attack them with guilt, shame, and embarrassment, right? And even fear, right? And so, the enemy will hold this over their head and tell them lies such as, oh, they would never forgive you, right, for what you done. You might as well just not even try, or you might as well give up, right? So the enemy will hold them back, and bring this shame upon them. Shame is designed to keep the one who is up under the shame in hiding, okay? Shame causes you to go in hiding. Shame, you feel like you can't face the one you mistreated when you are up under shame. So this is another reason why you haven't heard from your God ordained spouse, because they're feeling guilty, they're feeling ashamed, concerning their behavior towards their wife or husband. And so you want to begin to pray against the spirit of shame, the spirit of guilt, spirit of embarrassment, and even the spirit of fear. Okay, you want to rebuke it and bind it, and then you want to pray the opposite over them. Okay, God, give them a courageous spirit, give them a brave mind, to go forward with the instructions of the Lord. Okay. The fourth way how the enemy blocks communication is with blackmail. So again, this could be done with the counterfeits, right? And even some of the friends and family members your God ordained spouse has surrounded themselves with. Because again, I need you all to understand that whatever is God ordained, the enemy is coming to attack it, right? And so once the enemy realize or get the revelation of who you are to your spouse, the enemy is coming to attack it. They're going to try to block it. Maybe your God ordained spouse did, some things to you that you might not be aware of, right? And the enemy know this, right? The enemy know what your God ordained spouse were into in the past. They know who they used to be in the past. And now that God has stepped in and corrected your God ordained spouse, and now is considering coming back to you, now the enemy will try to blackmail them by telling them things. If you go to her, I'm going to tell her X, Y, and Z. Or they can do the blackmail by saying things such as, if you go to your spouse, then we're going to harm, him or her, right? So there could be some blackmail. They could be threatening to harm your life, So just begin to pray against all blackmail. Begin to rebuke all threats. Make sure you're covered by the blood, and also pray that God will expose the enemy, okay, and make a way out for your God ordained spouse, okay? The fifth way how the enemy blocks communication is with witchcraft attacks, okay? So, because they can put spells on you and spells on your God ordained spouse that block communication, that keep your spouse away from you. So you want to make sure you are praying against all witchcraft attacks, spells being sent your way, okay? Rebuke it and bind it. The sixth way how the enemy blocks communication is by keeping them distracted with counterfeits, okay? So, you will see tons of counterfeits just being sent your God ordained way, right? Because the enemy know your God ordained spouse's type. So he's gonna continue to send that type across your God ordained spouse's path to keep them distracted, so that in hopes of them missing their destiny, but they're not going to miss it. God, he already know the tricks and schemes of the enemy, so he's going to, remove the distractions out of the way, okay? So don't worry about it. The seventh way how the enemy comes in and blocks communication is in your God ordained spouse, their own insecurities, the way how they feel about themselves. For some of them, they insecure. They don't feel good enough, right? They don't even feel qualified or even ready to step into this God ordained love story. And so because they don't feel good enough, there's some intimidation showing up. This is the thing that holds them back, right? And so this is where your prayers come in at. So you want to begin to rebuke all spirit of intimidation, all spirit of insecurities, and pray and ask God to grow them up. Pray and ask God to get them prepared, help them to overcome their insecurities, right? Or intimidation, turn it into confidence and boldness, right? So this is where your prayers come into place at, because when you pray, God is going to catch your prayers, and he's going to be speaking to your God ordained spouse in however way he speaks to them, okay? And the last way how the enemy blocks communication, again, just being bound by what people think, right? So, if your God ordained spouse, if they really care about what people think versus what God think, that's going to hold them back, because they might, be feeling some type of way about their God ordained spouse, right? just about, you know, they might be feeling some type of way about if I go back, take this person on as my wife, you know, how would that make me look? You know, what would people say? What would people think, right? And so you want to begin to just rebuke off that people-pleasing spirit, that approval addiction, you know, and just pray your spouse through, okay? Because they just got to overcome that fear of what people think. And when they get the revelation that, you know, their own family and friends would never approve of, you know, what is God ordained, right? If they are surrounded by family and friends who are speaking against what God, you know, is telling them, you know, they're speaking against this God ordained love story, they have to get the revelation that these individuals are sent on assignment from hell, okay? This is their assignment, to keep the spouses from coming together. So they would never get their approval. They would never get their validation, right? They would never get the okay or the yes they're looking for. So you want to pray that God give them the boldness to step out by faith. You want to pray that God, you know, give them the confidence to not even care about what people think. Break off that people-pleasing spirit and move by faith, okay? So those are the ways how the enemy blocks communication. I am Tequila Coleman. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave me a positive comment. I'll talk to you all real soon. Take care.